Now we are going to have Filipa Castro. Filipa Castro, she is a computer vision and artificial intelligence researcher at Abyssal. She's also having a lot of experience around the NGO world, all part of the leadership team of Rotaract for the past 6 years. And currently she's member of Data Science for Social Good Portugal since 1 year ago, where she's the main POC between beneficiaries and data scientists, and she's running projects such as the one that she's going to share with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Filipa to the stage and then giving you the word to share all about the projects that you are leading in Data Science for Social Good Portugal.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Can you hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, so now I will share my slides.
Yes, I'm going to remove mine. And it's all set.
Yeah, okay. So, thanks, Anna, for the nice introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Filipa Castro, and I'm a team member of Data Science for Social Good Portugal, which is a very long name. So I will call it DSSG from now on today. And I'm here today, and I'm happy to share with you part of the journey that we have been making for 6 to 7 months now, since the COVID-19 pandemic started in Portugal, basically. And this presentation will mainly focus on the initiatives we launched for using data to fight COVID in Portugal. But more important than that, it's important to talk and discuss how we were amazingly supported by our community of data experts and how we did it, or how we tried to mobilize them. So first things first, what is Data Science for Social Good Portugal? We are an organization which brings beneficiaries such as NGO and volunteers, which can range from data scientists to designers, and we bring them together in order to build data projects for social good. So these projects should be simple yet impactful projects, and they normally last from 3 to 6 months. We also define that there must be always a concrete deliverable associated with these projects. So that's the formula we have been applying since the beginning. Our pilot project started in February 2019, and it was related to a national fundraising campaign against cancer. And 1 year later, we are able to launch our first project with real volunteers. So the first project, we did it as an internal project to test our formula. And then we had a partnership with a public vet hospital. And the goal of this first project was to reduce the waiting times regarding appointments or even treatments in this public hospital, vet hospital. But suddenly, around March of this year, life changed, right? So it changed at least a bit for all of us, but it also changed the activity of the SSG because out of a sudden, we saw all our projects being cancelled or delayed. Because all our partners, the ones you see here, they work for the social area. So basically, with the COVID-19 pandemic, they really needed to focus their entire attention on more urgent matters. For instance, the Red Cross in Portugal, we were planning a project with them, but they had to give priority to helping the population of Portugal, of course. And even though this pandemic had a lot of downsides for DSSG, at the same time, we were able to see an opportunity here. Why? Because there were more and more volunteers available. So basically, people were spending more time at home, and they really wanted to help. At the same time, we had a critical social problem all around the world, and that's why the DSSG exists, to solve and tackle social problems. And more than that, we want to work with data. And we saw a severe data problem, not only an health problem, but a data problem in Portugal. So in contrast with other countries, such as Italy or Singapore, which are countries that have been sharing their COVID-19 data in an efficient way with suitable tools, there was no sign of a concerted data strategy from the Portuguese health authorities. And still today, the data that is shared by the government every day comes in a PDF file, so a PDF report, which is always changing its format and which is not easy for data scientists to use this data. And this was when we asked ourselves if we could offer a central data location for COVID-19 in Portugal. So even though we thought this could be done by public entities, after all, we were ready to accept new challenges because all our projects were being suspended. And it turned out we could do it. So in March, we launched our GitHub repository, and this basically gathers all the publicly available data that exists regarding COVID-19 in Portugal. This includes not only CSV files containing all the data from several days since started, but also a comprehensive data dictionary where we explain the meaning of each of the variables. For instance, the number of confirmed cases, the number of deaths per region, or the number of tests. And besides, and I think one of the most important contributions from our side is the suite of tests. So basically, this means that every time we have more data every day, we will run some tests. For instance, there was an example some weeks ago in the UK where they lost track of around 5,000 to 6,000 cases just because there was a mistake on the Excel file. So basically, we know that mistakes happen, but if they happen, we want to find them as soon as possible. And our suite of tests serves this purpose. So we will run these tests, assure that data is coherent, and if not, we will let everyone know as soon as possible. But for me, the best thing about this repository is, of course, that it's open to contributions. And since day one, there have been hundreds of people helping us out. We have at least 80 forks of this repository. And this means that there are at least 80 projects which are fed by our main repository. So every time we have a daily update, we are also updating other projects, for instance, dashboards or predictions of risk of infection. And now I will, I already gave some examples, for instance, dashboards, but I will present to you some of the nicer contributions that we had from our data experts. So one of the first ones was cartographic data. So basically we are talking about GeoJSON or shape files for the Portuguese regions. So while at first we only provided the raw numbers in our repository, now we also have these files that describe each region of Portugal geographically. And what is in practice, what is the contribution of these files? So basically now data scientist that assigns a certain number for a region, for a district in Portugal, then they can easily translate this information into a fancy visualization such as the map that you see here. And once the repository started to be used by more and more people, the community found it would also be useful to build an API so that everyone could access data in a faster way. So basically what we had in our repository since the beginning was a list of the number of cases for every day and other information per day. And what this API does is to connect to our database, and it has a web interface. So basically it's a website. You can go there and you can submit specific requests. So you can ask, please give me the last update of COVID-19 in Portugal. You can ask, please give me the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Portugal for the 20th of October. And this makes other applications easier because, for instance, if you have a dashboard that you want to update daily, you can simply write a specific request that can answer your question. Another great contribution, I think probably the one of the best, is an algorithm that the community developed that automatically extracts data from PDF files. So if you remember, I said that even today, the Portuguese government is sharing data in a PDF file, and we want to convert it to CSV. So basically we were spending too much time just filling around 80 columns of a CSV file every day manually. And after this contribution, we can now just click a button and the workflow runs smoothly and automatically, and we extract data in a few seconds directly to our CSV file. And of course, there were also endless contributions in terms of dashboards. There were data journalists using our data for articles with fancy visualizations. We have all of these applications listed in our repository if you are curious. So every time someone does any kind of visualization or application with our data, we ask them to share it so that we can list all of them. And we also have predictive applications which are being developed from the data that we constantly share. So for instance, in the left, you can see that there is a map where the meaning of the color is the risk of infection per region. So every time our data is updated, this prediction will also be updated, and it can really help the government, public entities, or the municipalities to decide on which measures to take each week or each month. And on the right, you also see a prediction of the effective reproduction number. So this is the so-called RT. And this is one of the most important indicators of the pandemic. So basically it reflects how many people is being infected by an individual. And many measures, for instance, in Portugal, are being decided taking into account this number. So it's really important and relevant to predict this number. And this is an example of a public prediction that is using our data. And so basically, after some months with this fantastic support from the community, people were contributing with their own ideas. We thought to achieve more. So we thought, how can we stimulate the community even more? And we thought that maybe there were some people that were at home and they wanted to help, but they didn't know how. And we thought about adapting our previously formula that I talked about, to adapt it to the COVID-19 context. And what we decided to do was to build mini projects. So instead of 3 to 6 months, this would last for 1 to 3 months. There isn't a specific beneficiary here. This is all of us. We gather a team of volunteers, 3 volunteers in this case, and the goal is to enrich and make our public repository even more complete, so that more analysis can be run upon this. So let's just say that we launched 4 projects. So we announced it, 4 mini projects, and in less than a week, we had 4 different teams which were ready to work for all them. So we were right in the sense that people were at home with no ideas and they wanted to help, because as soon as they saw some ideas, they offered to help. So the first one was one of the simplest but yet impactful mini projects. So basically, as I said, we update our repository every day, but this update will depend on at what time the government decides to publish the data. So sometimes it's at 1 p.m., sometimes it's at 5 p.m. And we found that it's useful for our community, for instance, in Twitter, our followers, to know when we have updated the data. And the goal of this mini project was simply to write a script to automatically generate a tweet every time we update data. And now if you visit our Twitter account, we will see that there is a daily post there. And it's not only an announcement of the new data, it also contains a summary of the data of the day. So for instance, the confirmed cases or the cases per region for that day. This was a more challenging project, I would say, and this is actually just being finished now. The goal was to analyze the evolution of the sentiment of the population in Portugal according to the different measures and to the different moments of this pandemic in Portugal. So besides using only the data that was in the repository already, these volunteers had also to collect new data. For instance, they collected data from different websites, from online newspapers. They collected some tweets to gather data from social networks, and then they have built a model that predicts the emotion or the sentiment that is in each sentence. So, for instance, they collected 1,000 titles of news, and then they analyzed if the sentiment with this news were negative or positive, and which was basically the tendency of the sentiment. So what you see here, for instance, on the left, is in green the number of confirmed cases per day, new cases, and then you have the number of news that were published in Portugal on those newspapers. So there you see that there is a correlation. And also below you have, again, the number of confirmed cases, but this time the number of tweets. So you can see that Twitter is a bit more reactive. So you have a high peak in the beginning when there was the first case in Portugal. And on the right, you have this evolution of the sentiment. So you can clearly see that the sentiment was always negative, but there was kind of an increasement on the positiveness of the Portuguese population once there were some measures from the government, and probably people felt safer, and this is easy to see in the analysis they did. So we also had a mini project which focused on analyzing the impact of COVID-19 on the job market. So basically, we knew that there was a lot of information available from the Portuguese government, but this information was not yet included in our repository. So what we proposed to this team was to organize all this data in the repository in a structured and organized way. They have also built dictionaries, and because they gathered this so well, and because now it's together with our data, daily updates data, it's much easier for any data scientists that is interested in studying the impact on the job market to do so. And even the team did it. So here you see some visualizations on the number of layoffs or the number of dismissals in Portugal. And you can also then correlate it with the evolution of the numbers and the measures from the government. Finally, there has been a lot of people, at least in Portugal, raising awareness for the fact that COVID-19 might be causing more damage than only the deaths or the infections. So it's highly relevant to also look to the mortality rate for other diseases, for instance, because COVID-19 might be causing indirect deaths in other diseases. So we knew this information about mortality was also available in another platform from the government. And this mini project, as the purpose of extracting this information from that platform to select the most relevant one and to maintain this information also in our repository and make sure that this was always updated. So now everyone that wants to really see the impact of COVID-19 on other diseases or on the mortality rate of other diseases, they can do it in a much efficient way because the team did a good job. So basically, to wrap up and as a take-home message, I would say that COVID-19 and all this experience we have with this public repository is just a very concrete example that open data and community experts. But we are confident that this formula of gathering volunteers and building short projects with actionable deliverables is the right way and the way towards tackling social problems. And so it's our plan to continue to do that for other causes. So now I will be waiting for your questions. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Filipa.
Thanks.
And just a reminder that all of this work that you're just showing is being done by volunteers, which is something that everyone knows how challenging it is, that you have to engage people. You're not paying them. They are doing this out of love and passion for the cause. So that's an interesting point. And regarding the questions, there is one question saying, okay, so you said that there are volunteers that have very diverse profiles. Can you tell us more about that? How can someone that is not, that could be technical or non-technical, could be involved? What are the types of profiles that you have seen so far?
Yeah. Okay. So now I've been involved on this COVID-19 project, but also on other projects before on DSSG. And for instance, one of the projects I've been at was focused on not only analyzing data, but also then showing this data, not only visualizations, but also storytelling. So when you come to this challenge of storytelling, you need someone from communication, for instance, or even designers, because you can do a fantastic analysis in terms of data. But then if you don't know how to communicate or which kind of visualization or which kind of colors to use, people won't read it. So you have a good analysis, but no one knows about it. So that's where designers and communication people from communication science comes in the way. Yes.
That's interesting because that's not the traditional profiles that people associate with data science.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that now more and more, even COVID, I think, in my opinion, it was also a good opportunity because now the general public knows that data is relevant, and they look at a chart and they know how to interpret it, because every day in the news you see a chart of COVID-19, and everyone understands that the numbers are important because every day they are expecting numbers from the daily news. And I think people are getting this more and more, this idea.
I agree. And also on the other perspective, how much data is collected from us daily from all sources. Let me check that we have some more. But if you want to add anything else, feel free. So I just wanted to ask. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to answer the question about the data. So besides the daily updates of the data that comes from the government, that is in a PDF file, I think we have around 100 variables that they share with us. But now, because we had all of these mini projects, we also have an update of everything that I talked about, the job market and the mortality rate of other diseases. This data is being collected every day if there are updates. So this is much more data. I don't know exactly how much, but yeah, everything is scattered in the public repository.
So it's a matter of understanding what are the relevant data sources that could be correlated with this topic. So not just collecting one data source, but thinking how much information, how many answers we can get through different types of data sources.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's and now I also see a question from Katarina. She's asking if we have more mini projects, and the new mini projects are always dependent on what you said. So, because firstly we need to think very well what kind of projects make sense. For instance, this of the mortality rate in the job market, for us they made sense. So now we are still thinking and looking for other data sources that could be useful to add. And then, yes, we plan to launch other mini projects, not only regarding COVID-19, but also other causes.
Yes. And I would ask you or to Danielle to maybe share some links in the stage chat so that people could get to know more about this.
Yeah, I will.
Now I think we are going for a small break for everyone to have some time for networking, for getting to know the company booths with all the partners that I mentioned so far. So me and Filipa are going offline, and we'll come back in approximately 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Filipa.